Thank you. We'll give it about 5 more minutes, see if anyone else straggles in. And we'll get started. Hey,
I'm doing good. How are you?
you're good.
I was trying to say, can I come back halfway?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whenever you're free, come on, I'll be here.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
For sure, take care. Alrighty, we will go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew. I'm a community engagement specialist with the Telco Credit Union. And this is the fourth part in our 5-part financial wellness series here at Berkeley City College. Today, we're going to be talking about fraud. So how to detect fraud, how to prevent fraud, and protect yourself from fraud. It's very fitting this is taking place on Halloween Day because fraud is scary and it is becoming more and more pervasive and kind of showing up everywhere, especially as everything is migrating to being digital and things are being stored in the cloud and your data can be everywhere. Protecting yourself and being extra diligent about fraud is a very, very big priority, or it should be for everybody. So hopefully today we can at least introduce you guys to some of the kind of scams that are out there, give you some things to kind of be on the lookout for, and get you in a mindset of protecting yourself, protecting your identity, and protecting your finances. So today we are going to be covering, number one, what fraud even is, what it looks like. We're going to talk about the red flags, so how you can detect fraud that comes out there, how fraudsters work on the back end, kind of the ways that they go about getting your identity and how they conduct their scams. We're going to talk about the different kinds of scams that are out there. There are a lot of different kinds of them. I'm only scratching the surface with what's on here, but you'll kind of get an idea of what are the big ones. Some ways to prevent fraud, how to respond to fraud if you ever do become victim to fraud. I myself have had it happen to me a couple times. And then if we have time at the end, just a little bit about who we are at Telco. So also, if anybody has any questions or comments or anything you want to share during the presentation, just shoot your hand up. I would rather make sure that all your questions get answered while you're here, so do not be shy. If you have anything you want to share, anything you want to ask, just let me know. Alrighty, so fraud. What is fraud? Fraud basically just occurs when a person is deceived with the promise of goods, services, or financial benefits that were never intended to be provided or were misrepresented. It can also occur if somebody steals your information and makes purchases and does things on your behalf or under your information, whether it be your social, whether it be your account information, whether it be your debit card, your credit card information. It's basically just misuse of your identity or misuse of your like intent. Typically, fraud victims will give money, but will never receive what they paid for. This results in a loss of funds. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be hard to recover that money, especially depending on how the money was given. If it was given in cash or by buying a gift card, sometimes those funds are a lot harder to recover. If you have like debit card or credit card fraud, that's still not fun, but normally it's a little bit easier to get that money back because you just, file a claim and they do the investigation, they credit the funds back to you. But if you are actually being frauded, meaning you are giving money or you're sending money to somebody that you don't know who they are or they're misrepresenting yourself, that is much, much, much harder to recover. So it's something that you should be extra alert about when you are handling that kind of business. Fraud can also include identity theft. We just talked about where scammers steal personal information to make unauthorized purchases. This can be applying for credit using your confidential information, your name, your social, all that stuff, stealing your debit card, stealing your bank account routing number, lots of different ways that fraud can be conducted. So some red flags for fraud. You can reduce your risk of being a victim by recognizing some common red flags, which I will share with you right now. If you are conducting some kind of business on your behalf, and someone is asking you first to hide information from or lie to your financial institution. This happens a lot if you are like starting a new job and they say like, don't tell your bank account what our business name is, or like pull money out for these starting materials, but you don't have to let them know like what it's for. They'll ask so many questions, yada, yada, yada. They're telling you to not be transparent about what they're doing with anyone else. That is a big, big red flag. Anyone is ever asking you to provide login credentials to any account that you have, this is not just a Patelco thing, this is across the board. There is never any situation in any circumstance for any business, for anything you have an account for, where you will need to provide them with your username and password. They might ask if they're like verifying your identity, if you are calling them, they might ask for your username. They'll never ask for your password. You never have to give anybody your password ever, unless you are entering it into log into whatever the service is. So if anyone's ever asking you for that, that is number one telltale sign. It is 1000% a scam. If anyone ever asks to send extra money back after someone has paid you, this happens a lot with job scams. Someone will like give you a check for whatever the job was and then say, oops, I sent too much, send $500 back. Or, they'll pretend like they are like an agent or a broker of some sort. They'll send you money and then ask you to send them back or cut. That's also a big scam. A lot of times those checks or whatever they send you are not valid. So you'll get the money, you'll deposit it. Normally takes about 3 or 4 days for that fund or that ACH or whatever it is to bounce and the money to come out of your account. They will try to get you to send them money before the funds bounce. So they will get your actual money, and then when the check bounces or whatever doesn't clear, you're then going to be in the negative. And because that's something that you authorized and you gave yourself, it's really, really hard to get those money back. And then last is to buy gift cards and send them the card information. We're going to talk about gift card scams later on, but don't ever buy a gift card to pay bills or to pay your taxes or whatever they may say it is. No reputable institution is ever going to ask you to pay them in like a Visa gift card. That's just not how businesses work. So if anyone's ever asking you to buy a gift card and send them card information back, it sounds silly, but a lot of people do fall for it. Sometimes they're really convincing when they talk about the reason why. Just know that that is always, always false. So some ways that your information can be compromised. Number one is a data breach. Large institutions can be victim to data breaches that will put your personal information at risk. This happens if you like store your information in their system, you store your credit card information or whatever personal information you have. Large companies are operating off of firewalls and like digital protective, barriers that are never impenetrable because fraudsters are very smart. A lot of them are really, really tech savvy, and they are constantly trying to figure out ways to get around those things, and a lot of times they do. So data breaches, ransomware, that actually happened to Patelco earlier this year. We were victim to a ransomware attack. Luckily, we were able to recover everything. No one's funds were lost. We did have to have a lot of our services shut down for about 2 weeks while we had everything frozen and rebuilt. So there are things that happen. A lot of that stuff is out of your control, but it is one way that fraud can occur. Public Wi-Fi. So hackers can intercept your connection and collect your data if you are using any kind of public or unsecured Wi-Fi. I don't want to like discourage anybody from using public Wi-Fi because a lot of times at school, this Wi-Fi is public and you have to use it while you're here or at the library or the airport or whatever. I would just advise against doing any like sensitive activity on public Wi-Fi. So like buying a plane ticket, you're entering in your card information or signing up for a service where you have to put in, you know, your social, your address, whatever it may be. If it is public like that and you are actually entering in your personal information while using the public Wi-Fi, a lot of times hackers can like intercept that. They can do screen mirroring, they can do whatever they can while you are connected to the same network they are, and they can get your information. So just be cautious about the types of activity that you do on public Wi-Fi. Research is fine, printing stuff is fine, whatever, but try to avoid sharing your personal information or inputting your personal information while you are on a public network. Offline account takeover is basically just any time fraudsters are getting your information in any way that is not like digitally. So this is why it's really important if you get bills or if you get like tax return or pay stubs or things like that that have your information on them, not to just throw it in the trash, because fraudsters are not above digging through trash to get what they need to get. Shred it, toss it up, cut it up, whatever you have to do. A lot of times I will like, it sounds ridiculous, but I'll like dunk mine in water and then like bunch them up and rip it and throw it away. So that way it's like impermeable, it sticks to itself when it dries. Anything you have to do to have your information that is printed on paper, not just, you know, floating out in the world, because once you toss it in the trash and walk away, you have no guarantee that it's going to stay in that trash can and, you know, take the trajectory of trash that it's supposed to take. And then the last is malware and spyware. So software can be installed on your device through clicking links, scanning QR codes. Anytime you get any kind of email that has any kind of weird or suspicious link, if you click those things, they can install either like viruses on your computer that can go in and pull your stuff. Sometimes those links install spyware, so it like mirrors your screen and they can see whatever you're typing in and see what you're doing on your end. So just be very cautious about links that you click. Social engineering is how a lot of this malware and spyware works. Social engineering is when a fraudster will use psychological manipulation to gain access to your information. So not just like hacking in and getting your stuff, but this is when they are basically doing tactics to manipulate you to giving the information for them. Phishing is a popular type of social engineering. This is usually done through email or text. So this is like if they send you a text that says, you know, you have a UPS package that is delayed, click this link to do tracking, or, you know, they'll send an email pretending to be Amazon or pretending to be, you know, some big company and give you a link that you have to click. That's a big, big way that they can go about getting your information. And again, it's those kind of things where you are the one that clicks the link. It's harder than usual to recover those funds and get everything back. Phishing message usually pretends to be from an organization you trust and includes a link, attachment, or asks for a reply. Even replying or engaging with these messages can sometimes lend itself to fraud, so just don't engage, block if you have to, but do not do any kind of interaction with these phishing messages, or if it's anything that seems a little sus, just don't go down that road. When you click the link to reply, data will go directly to the hacker, or the malware or spyware will be downloaded on your device, and then it will do whatever it's programmed to do by the hacker. So some ways to detect phishing. If you see an email or a text that you're a little bit suspicious of, here are just some ways to do some extra digging and see if it is safe or not. These are not, you know, foolproof, so it still could be, it still could not be, but these are just a couple ways to check some red flags. Number one, check the from email address for signs of fraudulence. So like if you're getting an email from something that says to be Amazon, it should come from Amazon.com. It shouldn't come from AmazonStore.com. It shouldn't come from AmazonReturns.com or like AmazonBiz.com or anything like that. It should be coming directly from that company's reputable website. So if it's saying like you have an order with Amazon that's been lost in transit, click this link to track, and it's coming from like AmazonOrders.com, that is a big sign that it's not actually from Amazon. It's from somebody who is, you know, impersonating Amazon and had to just come up with some email address to make it look legit. Spelling and grammatical errors are a big one. These things are normally just put in by one or two people and they don't always have the best proofreading. So anytime you see spelling, grammar errors, a lot of times if it's coming from the actual company, they have a whole team of people that's doing the proofreading and the marketing team that's going through that. You're not going to find those in a legit one. Suspicious of hyperlinks or unknown attachments. And being skeptical of urgency. So being skeptical of urgency is a big one because a lot of times they will try to either play on like your excitement or play on your fear or your anxiety. So you might get an email or a text that says, you owe the IRS from backdated taxes. And if you don't respond or send the money within 48 hours, it's going to be reported to collections. Then your credit's going to be tanked. And then we're going to have to notify the law enforcement. And there's going to be a warrant out for your arrest. Anything that makes it seem like you have to act right now. I don't know if anybody has ever actually had bills or anything in debt collection before, but they don't act like that. They're normally very patient. They're normally trying to work with you to get it resolved. No reputable company, even if that is what they're doing, is going to really be pushy like that. So that's a big way to tell that it could potentially be a fraud. And then being suspicious of anything that feels too good to be true. I get texts like this probably like once a week that say I wanted some kind of prize for some contest that I never actually entered or never heard of. They do that a lot to try to prey on people who maybe are financially struggling or maybe see this and think like, oh my God, I won $10,000. That's awesome. I need to collect this right now. If it's something that you didn't enter or it seems like, how could this be such good luck that I won this money or I won this prize? It probably is not good luck. It's probably actually bad luck. So be suspicious of anything that you don't recognize or that seems like it is, you know, too good to be true. Cool. Cool. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the different kinds of scams that are out there. There are a lot of them, and then some ways to like protect yourself to recognize each one of these. So the first is, I've been talking about it a little bit. These are text message scams. This is also known as smishing, like phishing, but SMS. Text message scams often will look legitimate, and they will tend to prey on fear or excitement. So like I talked about earlier, pretending like you won a contest, or saying that you know, ordered something and the package hasn't gotten here. Has anybody gotten those like UPS texts before that say like, click this link to track your package? Those are all fake. And you know, most of the time they're not able to actually see your like order history on things. They just send that to you, assuming that you ordered something on Amazon or whatever at some point. But if you get one of those and you know for a fact you actually have nothing coming in the mail, don't click it. I think this is, you know, pretty common knowledge. Yes.
What if you do and you input, like, because I think this happened to my sister's boyfriend. He saw that his package was like delayed or something, and
Yeah.
he needed to get his card info, put in his card info. It didn't work, so he put his mom's card info, and it didn't work. And my sister's card info.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. Does that like you're for sure getting, like, yeah, it's a scam?
I mean, it is a scam. Like that is, and I shouldn't say like for sure it's a scam, but like 99% that's a scam. I order stuff from like Amazon and websites all the time. I've never gotten like a text message from UPS that just says like, click this link right here. That's not how they normally go about, you know, reaching out to you. Even if you actually do have something that is delayed or in transit, most times they will like send you an email from the official UPS website. It'll have the logo, it'll say from ups.com. It'll give you a phone number. It'll be much more legit than just like a text message from a random phone number. And so like, I don't know anything definitively with stuff like this, but that more likely than not is a scam. And when you send that information out there, it then just depends on what they are going to do with it. But typically if you click the link, even sometimes not entering the information, like just clicking the link is enough for them to do what they have to do, download the malware or the spyware or whatever it is, but if you're giving them the information, then yeah, it's, you know, if it is a scam, it's going to them and they can do with that as they see fit. So some red flags, number one, instructs you to click a link. If it asks you to provide any kind of personal information or to reply with, you know, the last four of your social or whatever it is, if it claims that there's suspicious activity on your account, package delivery notification. A lot of times people, even if they know that they didn't order something, or if they get a text from, you know, Chase, for example, or an institution claiming to be Chase that says, you know, you're negative in your account with Chase, even if people don't have a Chase account, they still might think like, wait a minute, I don't have a Chase account. I don't want this to be like incorrectly reported on my profile. Let me like address this. So they'll apply and click, and you know, anything like that is a big red flag for you, because if you have a Chase account, you think you gotta fix it. If you don't, you think I need to report this incorrect account. They say there's a problem with payment information, your payment didn't go through, your payment didn't process. A big one is if they claim to be a government agency. That's what a lot of people use to try to scare people. I've never gotten like a legitimate text from the IRS or from like the United States Treasury. They don't communicate that way. And if they give an invoice for a purchase you didn't make, so a lot of times they'll include attachments that say like, here is your invoice or your receipt for this, you know, purchase you made through Amazon or through, you know, Wayfair or whatever it is. Even if you click that attachment, it could contain whatever they put in that attachment, and that's no good. So these are just a couple of examples of text message scams. You can see how they work right here. They all come with links. You click the link, it either will take you to a place that'll install malware or a virus on your device. Even sometimes if it says like opt out to reply no, if you engage with the message at all, a lot of times they will be sending your information. Like these fraudsters will buy data, which is just like, you know, tens of thousands of phone numbers, and will send out a mass, you know, blast to all these people. And anyone that engages and even responds back, they put on like a shortened list, and now they have information for who your data carrier is, what your phone number is. You've kind of confirmed that you are, you know, right for the picking, I guess. So don't engage. Block if you must. That's what I normally do. That's not anything that's sending information back. But if it's a weird website like this or a weird phone number, I just go to it and block it right then. Doesn't really stop them, because they're always going to be coming from new phone numbers they keep generating, but it at least, you know, erases that one for you. All right, fake debt collector scams. So fraudsters will pose as debt collectors, and they will threaten legal action to pressure you into paying a fake debt or a debt that you don't actually have. So if you ever get somebody reaching out to you via phone call, via text, via email, claiming that you owe a debt to whatever their institution, number one, I would say request a debt validation letter from the collector if it's something that you are unsure about. Like if you know for a fact you don't have a debt with the company because you've never done business with them, don't engage. But if it's an actual person on the phone or somebody sending you an email, and you are unsure if this actually is a debt that you have, you're on the fence if it's a scam or if it's real, everybody who is requesting a debt from you is required by federal law, if asked, for you to, or for them to provide you a debt validation letter, which basically is just like a notarized stamp official document that states that this is a legitimate debt that you owe. If they ever tell you for any reason that they're not able to do that, or they don't have that functionality, or they're not required to, or whatever it is, that is a scam right there, because they do indeed have to provide that to you if you request it. Also, just keep records of past and current debts so you're not fooled by a fake one. That's another way that people got by this is, you know, I had a Verizon account, I don't know, 5 years ago before we switched to AT&T. If I were to get something from Verizon that says like, hey, you actually have a backdated payment of $80 or whatever it may be, I might think like, well, I did have a Verizon account at one point, so like, do I actually have this or not? And you're not sure. If you just keep records of everything, know what your situation is, stay on top of your credit report, which we talked about last time, because a lot of these debts that go to collections will show up on there. It's much less easy to be fooled by somebody who is presenting a fake debt to you. And then, of course, like I just said, regularly review your credit report to stay on top of your finances, stay aware of all the accounts that you have balances on. This will, number one, protect you from like Visa or somebody coming after you and saying you owe credit card debt, because if you are staying on top of your credit report and you see that you actually are current on all your credit cards, all your loan payments, you're gonna know that that is not correct. And a lot of times if it's someone saying that it's like a medical bill or a old cable bill or electric bill, typically if you don't pay those within the allotted time they give you, which is like 6 months, they will sell them to a debt collection agency. And then those will reflect on your credit report as a collection item that you have. So if you know what's on your credit report, you stay on top of all of your debts and all the balances you owe, it's going to be very hard for a fake debt collector to scam you out of paying a debt that you don't actually have. Tech support scams. So this is another big one that is becoming more popular as more people are doing things more digitally. Tech support scammers want you to believe that you have a serious problem with your computer or your phone or whatever device you're using, like a virus or like malware or spyware. So they will pretend to be a tech agent reaching out to you to let you know that you have this thing on your device. They will ask you to either, number one, pay for tech support services. They'll say, send us $80 or $120 or whatever it is, and we'll clean out the virus. Or they will ask you to give them remote access to your device, in which case they can then just do whatever they want because they're in your thing. So, number one, legitimate tech companies are not going to contact you to tell you that there is a problem with your computer, because how would they know what is on your personal device? Every time I have an issue with my device and I have to reach out to tech support, I'm calling them. I've never once had like HP reach out to me and say like, hey, we noticed you have a virus on your computer. That's not going to happen. So if you receive a tech support outreach that you did not request yourself, someone just out of the blue is calling you from AT&T or Apple or whatever and telling you that you have a problem, that is a scam, always. 1000%, always a scam, no matter what. Also, be cautious of pop-up warnings. This kind of goes without saying because pop-ups are just notoriously, like we all know that they are, you know, not legit. But a lot of times pop-ups will appear to come from a trusted company. It'll design itself to look like it's like a McAfee or Vanguard or, you know, an antivirus pop-up that will, you know, jump on your screen and say, you have this virus on your computer, click here to wipe it out. Don't click on those. Real security warnings will never ask you to click a link. They'll never give you a phone number to call. If you do actually have like an antivirus thing on your computer, I don't know if you guys have seen those pop up, but they just kind of pop up and tell you what the situation is. They don't have links or anything else for you to engage with. Any pop-up that has a link or any pop-up that is telling you to take any kind of action, regardless of what the company is saying to be, just be extra suspicious about those. My rule of thumb for like pop-ups or anything like that is to just do additional research. So even if it is something that I might suspect would be mine, if it's a pop-up that has, you know, information that is very similar to what I think I might have for myself, let's say it is from, you know, McAfee or whatever. Instead of engaging with that pop-up, I will just like Google what their legitimate phone number is. I will reach out to them and say like, hey, I got this pop-up. Can you tell me if this is legit or not? So always do additional digging for anybody who's doing that reach out or outreach to you that way. Romance scams, these are fun. This is sometimes known as a honey trap, they call them. So romance scammers lure the victim into online relationships with the intent of asking for money or asking for you to give them personal information once they have gained trust. This tends to be very big for either like very young people, people who are just starting to get into social media, get in like their first relationships and are a little bit more naive. Also much older people. people who are more vulnerable to things like this as well. My grandma fell victim to a romance scam. She gave away a lot of money. It was a very hard time for our family. So this one is, you know, close to my heart because I have seen how these things can shape out. Basically, it was somebody who like designed a Facebook profile to be like her dream person, looked at like her likes, her interests, all that stuff she had, reached out to her. They developed a little online relationship, and then after a month or two, he started asking for money. She started sending it, and you could not tell her anything about it. So it's hard. So number one, do not send money or gifts to anyone that you have not met in person. You know, this is also really big because now a lot of times, even if you're not like an older person or a super young person, we meet each other online. That's just how we do it these days. It's through apps, it's through social media. So a lot of times you will develop like the beginning stages of a romance or of any kind of connection before you've met them in person. Don't send money or gifts to anyone you've not met in person. If you are, you know, feeling like it could be a thing, always insist on at least like a FaceTime or something that can be a little bit more verifiable of who this person is before you start engaging with them in any kind of like long-term way. Do reverse image searches of their profile picture. A lot of times these scammers are pretty lazy and will just Google like, you know, handsome dark-haired man, and will take the first, I don't know, like stock image picture that pops up and use that as their profile picture. Most of the times you can just like save that, do a reverse image and find it all over the internet. Do not send compromising photos of yourself. This can be used for blackmail, and a lot of times it is. This is also really big with younger people. So unless it's somebody that you really, really know, don't send it to someone that you've not ever met in person or don't have an actual, legitimate, trusted, in-person, real life, tangible relationship or connection with. And talk to trusted friends and family members about any new love interest. If there's anything in your gut that's saying like, I probably don't want to mention this to my friends or to my parents or whatever, you should listen to that gut instinct because that is telling you that there is something wrong. That's what happened with my grandma. We didn't know this person even existed until about like 3 or 4 months in because she wasn't saying anything. We know the reason is because I think she knew deep down, at least in the beginning, that it was a little iffy, but by the time it was, you know, down the road, she had gotten a little bit brainwashed by this gentleman. So yeah, romance scams are big. Keep an eye out, especially if anybody has like elderly family members who are, especially on like Facebook, make sure that any kind of social media like that is private so they can't just go in and mimic your interests, mimic your likes, and like cultivate an online personality around what you want. And just look out, especially if we have older aunts, uncles, grandparents, because this is very, very big for that community. Social media scams. This is also a very big one and becoming bigger and bigger as time is going on. Scammers are now very active on social media, so I want you to be very cautious of anybody that you don't know contacting you, offering to pay you, offering for you to engage in any way with them, offering you a job. Social media scams are like probably the biggest way that they target people, especially in your guys' age demographic right now. So, number one, verify the legitimacy of any account you interact with. This is what I was saying earlier, just because, you know, Nike is reaching out to you, asking you to be a brand ambassador for them. Check, you know, do a little bit more homework. If it's not Nike's actual official page, you probably got some cause for suspicion. Even if they have that blue check mark, the blue check mark's not enough anymore. You guys can buy that blue check mark now. It costs what, like 15 bucks a month? Anybody who is scamming you can obtain a blue check mark. Just because it says it's a verified account does not mean it actually is a verified account. The blue check mark means nothing, so do not be fooled by it. Watch out for, again, poor spelling, grammatical errors. The big scams on social media right now, it is like either brand ambassador or like artists. Sometimes they'll reach out and be like, hey, I represent this very wealthy client. They saw your pictures and thought that you know, are beautiful, or your art that you create is wonderful. They want to pay you for some of this. They will then pay you $1,000 and say, now you gotta give me 400 back, because that's my cut. Don't do that. Same with like the fake brand ambassador ones. They'll say, we want you to partner with, you know, this profile. We'll pay you. You just gotta send us this amount back. That's a big one right there. Job scams are also really big on social media. They will reach out to you offering you like jobs that are way too good to be true. You only work 5 hours a week and you have to just like watch a movie and write a quick review about it, and we'll give you $500. But you need to buy this equipment first, or you need to send us money so we can send you this startup stuff, this software, and then they just go ghost after that. So anytime anyone is reaching out to you for any kind of professional advancements, jobs, career, partnerships, just do some extra digging. I can tell you that I get those DMs all the time about like, we want you to be a brand ambassador for us. And I have like 500 followers. Nobody cares what I'm doing on social media. They don't need me to like support, you know, my 500 followers is not going to bring in the bank for Nike. You know, this is not how it works. Do not send money, personal information to anyone you don't personally know for any reason. A lot of these things are just me repeating myself from other ones, but it does kind of run the gamut for all these types of scams. And if someone you know reaches out to you via social media asking for money or information, verify it is actually them through another method. This more so is like if you are getting a DM from like a friend or someone's account that you actually follow, and they're reaching out to you saying like, hey, Venmo me this, or like send me this money, Apple Cash me, whatever. People can get hacked and then they can impersonate you reaching out to other friends. So if you do get like a message just on social media from an account that you do know, like a personal friend or, you know, close someone in your life, call them, reach out to them via text message, find some other way to actually verify that is them sending that outreach before you do any kind of further engagement with them. And if it's not them, then, you know, report the fraud immediately. Questions on this or anything else we've talked about thus far? Wonderful. Gift card scams. So this one's a fun one. Scammers will tell you to buy a gift card, like a Google Play card, an Apple card, a Visa card. Sometimes it'll even be as stupid as like a Cheesecake Factory gift card. And they will ask you to like give them the numbers off the back of the card. No matter what the situation is, whether it's they're claiming to be a debt collector or a tech supporter at social media or it's a job, anybody that is asking you to buy a gift card and give them that gift card information back, that is always a scam. You'll never, ever, ever have to do that. So number one, they will scam as government officials. They'll say you owe taxes and fines, and they will instruct you to pay with a gift card. The IRS is not going to have you send them your backdated federal tax owings in the form of a Google Play gift card. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Don't fall for it. Scammers will also pose as tech support. They'll ask for remote access to your device and then also ask you to pay them with the gift card. That's the same thing. They can get into your information when you give them remote access. And then, you know, you've given them the money and it's gone. Gift cards are really, really, really hard to recover funds for. If you buy gift cards, it's basically like taking cash out. You know, there's no real paper trail for it. So when you buy the gift card, activate it, send the number, send the card, it is almost impossible to get that money back. So these next two ones are a little bit fishier. Scammers can use voice cloning now, and they can pose as a loved one with an emergency, and they can ask you to send money via a gift card right away. This is also why I don't have my voice on my outgoing message, like voicemail anymore, because if it's a scammer who calls you to leave a message, we all get those scam calls. Once the system or whoever it is can like hear your voice on that, it is now in their database, and they can do with AI and with the voice cloning now, whatever they want with the sound of your voice to do whatever they have to do after that. So try to be cautious about where even your like voice is. Another reason why social media accounts should be private, because once your stuff is out there, it is out there. And it's more than just the content itself, especially with how AI is growing so quickly now and how that can be used in conjunction with scams. You can never be too safe. Scammers will also say you want a prize, and first you need to pay fees and charges with the gift card. That goes back to like preying on your sense of excitement or being happy that you won 10,000, but first you have to send $100 gift card to whatever. No prizes actually work that way. So just be very cautious, about anybody asking you to buy a gift card. And if you're getting any kind of suspicious calls from your mom or your friend, and it sounds like that, but something does seem a little off. A lot of scammers, that's not a super popular way to scam now, but as AI is growing, that voice cloning and that mirroring is becoming more popular. So again, just verify another way. Always find a second way to verify whoever is giving you outreach. If it's somebody claiming to be your mom on the phone, reach out to her direct number, send her a text, whatever you have to do to know that it actually is, in fact, her FaceTime, whatever it is. Cool. Student loan scams are big right now, so scammers will look to target students for both new loans and for relief or consolidation of existing loans. Some student loan scams will charge upfront fees, while others will pose as organizations just to steal your personal information. So first and foremost, for student loans consolidation, whether you're looking for a new student loan or looking to refinance the loans you already have, be cautious of fees. They're not impossible for like reputable student loans to have fees. So some fees will exist. It's not an immediate no if they're saying there's any kind of fee associated with it. But if you are asked to pay an out-of-pocket fee just to like apply for the loan, that is definitively a scam. Sometimes the fees in there will be like, we'll offer you 0%, but you have to pay this annual fee for this. Or sometimes some like really sketchy student loan places will offer prepayment penalties. They're like legitimate companies, but this is just how they make extra money. But if you're paying a fee just to apply, that is no good. Don't give out your federal student aid, your ID information to anybody. That goes back with not giving your password or your usernames out, but there's no reason, even if you are applying for any kind of student loan consolidation, that they are gonna need your federal student aid ID. That is between you and the feds, not any private company who's offering to consolidate or refinance your loans. Resist any kind of pressure to act immediately. This is really big with student loan scams, but pretty much any kind of scam, saying you have to apply within 24 hours or right now to get this great rate. Goes back to what I said earlier. No one is going to push you like that if it is a legitimate company. So that's a big red flag right there. And research any person or business who contacts you regarding student aid. If you just Google the company's name, a lot of times I will, especially if I'm online shopping and I see something I want, but it's from a website I don't recognize, I just Google website name, legit, ? And read other people's reviews and other experiences on them. That can be the same with any kind of student loan or any job or anything that is like reaching out to you that isn't something you're super familiar with. Just do additional research, do some extra homework on it. QR code scams, love these, you guys. QR code scams. Design of QR codes makes it impossible for the user to know where the code will direct them after they scan the code. So this will allow scammers to send victims to either phishing websites or to download stuff on their device or to pay somebody that you didn't actually intend to pay. So, number one, check for tampering of any unattended QR codes before you scan them. This is really big at like parking stations, or if you're having to like pay a cover at a bar, they'll have a little thing that says like, pay it right here on Venmo. A lot of times they will cut out their own QR code. They'll make a Venmo or whatever account that is the same name as the garage or whatever you're parking at, and they will just stick it on the legitimate one. And then when you are paying for what you think is parking, you're actually paying the scammer. Sometimes there's no way to actually pay that at all. We'll just like put these legitimate looking signs up that say pay right here. So just be cautious of any kind of unattended QR code for scanning those, whether it's payment or not, because once you click it, it's just like clicking a link. Be cautious of QR codes posted in public places. If it's, you're walking around and there's a sign posted on a bulletin board or on like a lamp post that says, we have this party tonight, RSVP here, or whatever it is, any kind of unattended QR code that doesn't have a person there that you can ask questions with. Again, it's just like clicking a link that gets sent to an email for you. Research a company, find out its contact information before scanning a QR code. It all kind of comes back to the same things. If it's not something that 1000% you'll be willing to stake your life on it, that it is legitimate, always find a secondary source to reach out to the institution. Don't just click the link, don't just scan the code, do your extra homework, do your Googling, find their actual reputable website and just verify and cross-reference everything from what you have done versus what they have given you. Do not scan QR codes from unsolicited emails. This is quishing. It's like smishing for SMS, Q is for the QR code. It's all the same thing. And then you can preview the QR code link, or normally like a shortened version of it, before scanning the QR code. So like when you tap it, before you click the link, it'll pop up in that little yellow box there and tell you where that QR code is going to. Don't just click and blindly tap, actually look at what that little yellow box says and make sure it is in fact the website that you are intending to go to. And back to the payment ones, I mean, if you're paying a parking garage or paying something that is, for a fee that you have to pay, most times it's gonna go to that company's like actual payment portal. I don't know a lot of parking garages that like operate using Venmo. So if it takes you to a Venmo account and it's got the parking garage picture there and it says, Berkeley City College parking, just be suspicious about any QR code that's unattended, or you're paying an actual legitimate business, not just like a vendor at a table where the person's there, because that a lot of times they do use Venmo. But if it's a, parking garage, anything like that that you're paying and it's taking you to a Cash App or an Apple Pay or a Venmo, do some extra digging, see if there's another way that you can pay, because that could be a big red flag as well. Cool. Digital payment scams. So it's common for fraudsters to utilize digital payment platforms such as Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, Apple Pay, etc., to conduct their scams. So do not ever send a Venmo or a Cash App or a Zelle payment or any kind of digital transaction to someone that you do not know and that you don't trust. That's also just like giving cash or sending any kind of check or electronic payment to somebody. Once you've sent it and you've authorized that payment, you have clicked the box that says, yes, I'm sending this payment out. It's really, really, really hard to get that money back, even if that person is proven to be a fraudster, because they can take the money, deactivate the account, and be wiped off the face of the earth as far as you're concerned. And once that happens, you're just kind of out of luck. Don't share your online banking user ID or password with anyone, even if they're claiming to work for the bank themselves. And do not do digital payment test transfers. So that'll happen a lot of times. No matter what the scam is, they're claiming they're an employer, they're claiming they're whatever, and they want to give you money via Venmo, but they'll say like, hey, send me this test amount first to make sure it works. Don't fall for that. Do not use digital payment platforms to make any kind of legitimate payment. Like if it's a utility bill or a credit card bill or an auto loan or anything, if there is a data breach, for example, like we talked about earlier, a lot of times they can't do anything with that. They just kind of have your information. So if you have, an auto loan with, we'll say Patelco, and Patelco has a big data breach, they might see your information. They can see like, this is your name, these are the products that you have with us. So they now know with Patelco, you have an auto loan for this exact vehicle. They will know that you have a, MasterCard credit card with this balance. They can't really do anything with that information, but they will then take the information they've gotten from those data breaches and try to do this kind of social engineering. So even if it's someone who is giving information that sounds exactly like what you owe, they say, hey, you have to now pay us your monthly payment of $387.20 for your 2018 Honda Accord. And you think like, that is my car, that's what I owe, that's my balance. Doesn't necessarily mean it is that company. That goes back to just verifying the email address, verifying the sender, and doing extra homework, and not paying your Patelco auto loan via Venmo, because that's just not how any reputable business will conduct their payments. All right, so debit credit card fraud. This is probably some of the most common kinds of fraud that is out there. This is just basically fraudsters stealing your credit card information, and they can steal this in lots of different ways. Number one is just to steal your card. That's the easiest way for a criminal to get your data, is to get the actual card itself. So they can get the PIN either by like shoulder surfing, which is if you're at an ATM and they see you typing your stuff in, they just kind of like take a peek, and getting your card when you dropped it or leaving it in the machine. A lot of these ATM terminals will, you'll have to like input your card in the actual machine there. And sometimes people forget to get it. They get their cash, they think, okay, I'm done, they walk away. If someone has seen you enter in your PIN and they see you walk away, they will then, hang back, wait till you're gone, take your card, and now they have your PIN, they have your card, they can do whatever they want. Skimming devices are big. So this is, I don't know if anyone's ever seen one of these. It's like a little device or like robot with a chip on there that they will put on ATM or like card terminal readers. A lot of times these are put on unattended things like gas station pumps or at like an ATM. But basically this just means that when you insert your card, such as one of these terminals here, it takes the data that it scans when the chip touches the skimming machine and sends it to whatever fraudster has installed it. If you ever see a skimming machine, first of all, if you're ever inserting your card into a terminal, look at it first. Tapping, they don't have any way to go about getting that information at this point, and that's kind of why they moved to the tap. It makes it a little bit harder. But the machines, when you actually put it in, just take a quick little look at the device. You'll be able to see it. It's not super visible, but if you're actually looking at what it goes, you'll see a little like extra device or something outside of the terminal that shouldn't be there. That is a skimming machine, so check those things. Like I said, they're normally at unattended stations, but sometimes you will see them like at a convenience store or at a store like that on the thing there. If you do see one of these things, don't alert the person who's there, because sometimes it is the actual employee itself putting those on the machine. It's the owner of the store. If you see anything that looks a little sus, just call the police. Call any kind of law enforcement, because they are the ones who are going to be able to come out and do the extra digging. If you tell the person like, hey, you have a skimming machine here, and he's the one who put it on, he'll say, oh, thanks, I didn't know that. I'll take it off and handle it. And then once you leave, it'll just go right back on. And then ghost ATM. So you can actually go on eBay and just like buy an ATM machine and put it wherever you want. And that's what people will do. They will go and they will buy an ATM somewhere that's on the internet, or like if the store is closing, they'll take those generic ones out and they'll put them in public places. They're not connected to any actual like ATM functionality. They just install the viruses or the scammings in the ATM. So they'll put their card in, they'll get an error message that says, hey, we can't give you your money right now, sorry. But at that point, you've already inserted the card. So be skeptical of any kind of unmarked ATM that you see. If you are in like an actual store and they have an ATM inside, those are a little bit safer. But if you see an ATM outside a store or somewhere like on a street or on a busy walkway, and it's not marked with Chase or Wells Fargo or whatever, or if it is marked with Chase or Wells Fargo, but it doesn't look like any Chase or Wells Fargo ATM you've seen in your life, that is a big red flag that it is a way for them to steal your card information. Sounds good? All right, so got a couple minutes here. Maintaining strong cybersecurity is one of the best defenses you can have against scammers. Number one, keep your devices and software up to date. I hate this because I don't like change. So anytime I get any kind of like notification from my phone or on my thing that says we have a software update, click this, I dread it because I just got used to the way it works. I don't want to change it again. But you have to do it because with all those software updates, they have security updates as well. And if you are operating on a device that has an old security update, That just means your firewall or your protection is something that a lot of fraudsters have already figured out a way to get around, and your device is much, much more vulnerable to fraud. Turning on automatic software updates ensures you will always have the latest security features. Using strong passwords, different passwords for different accounts, and changing your passwords periodically are also a big way to do it. This is super annoying as well, but I just keep all my passwords, written down somewhere, and every time I have to log in, I refer back to it. Don't let it save your password. I know that's so tempting to do so, but if you do have your password saved or your credit card information saved in, your Apple Wallet or your Chrome Wallet or whatever, it makes life a lot more convenient. But once anybody hacks your information, your email or whatever's linked to that, they now have firsthand everything that you've stored in there. So it makes yourself a lot more vulnerable. Enabling multi-factor authentication in security settings. That just means if you're logging into something, instead of just putting in your password, it'll also send you a text that you have to enter the code for. If you must save your passwords on your devices, please also enable this. So that way, if someone steals it, they can't just log in with the password that you saved. They at least have to go through some other security step to get your information. And then go through social media to ensure any information you do not want public is removed. Make sure your stuff is private, and make sure anything that you don't want out there is not out there. So if you have been scammed, you think you've been scammed, or you notice unauthorized charges, number one, contact your financial institution immediately. They will go over whatever they have to do to get everything back up and running for you. Additional steps may be required depending on the type of fraud. So if it's like card fraud, most of the times they can just submit a claim and it takes a few business days to get your money back. But if it's any kind of social engineering or anything where you've given any extra information, most of the time you're gonna have to file a police report. If someone has scammed you, that person is a criminal, they have committed a crime. And if you are trying to get your money back, it requires you to cooperate with law enforcement. Ergo, you're gonna have to file a report. Updating your login information on all your accounts. If you've been scammed on one account, you don't know what they have that could have been stored in the cloud. So once you've had any kind of scam, update your passwords, your email address, everything you have, anywhere else you have stuff saved. Update your computer security software. Sometimes you'll have to do a scan or a full sweep of your device. Go back to factory settings and start fresh if you have any kind of malware, anything that you've downloaded on your computer. Identitytheft.gov is where you go if you believe that the scammer has obtained your social or any kind of super personal information like that. You can put freezes on your social, you can put a freeze on your credit, you can make it so that if your social security number is floating around out there, they can't just go to lenders and apply for an auto loan in your name. There's going to be additional steps that have to be taken. It makes it a little harder for you because when you actually want to do this, you're going to have to go through those steps. But it means that if a fraudster out there has your information, they just can't go willy-nilly and applying for things under your name. And then last but not least, placing a freeze on your credit, which means that nothing can actually go through on your credit. You'll have to unfreeze it for 24 hours if you want to apply for something. But having a freeze on your credit means that nobody can actually pull anything on your credit or with your social unless you yourself call the credit bureaus and unfreeze it. Sounds good? That is all I have for you guys today. We're 2 minutes over, but if anybody has any other questions about fraud, let me know. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss. Hopefully we have taken something away from this and we can go and be more secure, financially sound individuals.
I guess, can anyone do anything with your ID? They have your CID.
They can. So if you've lost your ID, a lot of times you're just going to want to notify all of your bank accounts or things like that that would have to verify you, and they will put any kind of flag or restriction on your account. I can say at Patelco, when I used to work at a branch, anytime someone would lose their driver's license or their passport or state ID, they would let us know. We would put flags on there so that whenever they would come in to do any kind of transactions, we would have to go through other ways to verify them, ask them whatever security question they have, confirm their most recent transactions. The reason being is that, you know, most of the time, people who are checking IDs to verify you aren't really looking that closely. So if someone who like somewhat looks like you has your ID, or that you lose your wallet and they see that you have an account with Patelco, they can go in and say like, hey, I'm you, here's my ID, give me $1,000. So if you do lose your ID, there's not really a lot of information on there besides like your name and your address. There's not like your socials not on there and stuff like that. But when you've lost your ID, someone can pretend to be you. And depending on how, I guess, strict the person is who's checking IDs, I mean, like, there are some people where like I could pass as you, you know what I mean? Like if I gave you, they're not gonna look further than that. So yeah, just notifying people that you have lost your ID, and putting additional steps on there to verify your identity. Yeah, for sure. Any other questions? Well, I got you guys here. All right, well, that's all I got for you guys today then. Thank you so much. Happy Halloween. Yeah, for sure, thank you.